My family didn't begin with blood, it began with my own death. I died in a car accident on a day when black snow fell. There was nothing tragic about it. No tears, no desperate cries to keep me in this world. My funeral was small, just a handful of people, including the man who accidentally took my life, and a young woman holding her newborn baby. I wasn't angry. I didn't feel hatred, but I couldn't let go either. So I followed them home. And in the silence of night, wrapped in lullabies and the weary breath of a mother trying her best, I realized I had just found something I never had while I was alive. After the rushed funeral, where only my detested boss and the very family responsible for my death stood silently watching the coffin lower into the ground, I should have vanished. Or at the very least, drifted into some undefined place meant for souls with no more ties to this world. But I didn't go anywhere. I stood there in that cold, wind-blown cemetery beneath a bleak, gray sky, listening to the soft cries of a newborn in her mother's arms. That cry, fragile, unfinished, was the only thing that kept me from fading completely. I followed them home. No one saw me, no one heard my steps. But I was there, like a breeze brushing past the doorway, like a quiet shadow lingering when the lights went out. At first, I didn't know why I stayed. Maybe it was because of her, Lily. She carried something I couldn't turn away from. A new life. A fresh beginning. Everything that my ending was not. Lily couldn't sleep unless someone sang to her. In those first nights, I stood beside her crib, watching her squirm, her lips tightening as if about to cry, her tiny hands reaching into empty air. I reached out, not to touch, just to gently rock the crib. It swayed. Lily quieted, and slowly she drifted into sleep. For the first time since my death, I felt useful. Her parents, Jack and Lori, were still so young then. Exhaustion hung in every step they took, in every late-night sigh. But they kept trying, changing diapers, mixing bottles, soothing her back to rest. They loved that little girl so fiercely, it made me feel like I loved her too. I didn't plan beyond that. I stayed, night after night, because of Lily. Because of her breath, her laughter, her existence. Because she made me feel part of something again. No one called my name. No one welcomed me. But I knew. I was exactly where I needed to be. In the beginning, my presence was a secret, but not completely invisible. Once, Lori told Jack she thought the crib rocked on its own. Another time, they both heard lullabies in the dark when neither of them had been awake. One day, during dinner, Lori paused mid-bite and whispered, "I feel like someone's watching." Not in a bad way. More like a guardian. I stood in the corner, silent. I don't know if there's an afterlife, but if there is, this must be it. Not heaven, not the realm of the dead, but something in between. A thin boundary between presence and being forgotten. And I chose presence. Not for revenge, not to haunt, but to love. Even though no one sees me, no one remembers my name. Still, I am part of that family. Quietly, unconditionally. I was never a father or a mother or anyone who could be called family while I was alive. But in that moment, when Lily smiled in her sleep, her tiny hand waving through the air as if searching for comfort, I knew. Yep, I would stay. And no matter what the world might call me, a ghost, a spirit, a figment, I knew in my heart I was only one thing. Her guardian. Time passed. Lily grew up, from a restless baby to a little girl who ran around the house with a tattered stuffed bunny always tucked under her arm. I remained by her side, unseen, like a gentle breeze in the small room, but always present whenever she needed me. I don't know how much love a ghost is capable of feeling, but I am certain that if my heart were still beating, it would beat for Lily. And then something happened, something I never expected. Jack and Lori started to sense me, not with flickering lights or eerie shadows like in the movies. There were no ghostly wails, no doors slamming shut, just small things. A milk bowl washed clean in the sink when no one had touched it, a children's book open to Lily's favorite page, or those cold nights when she was somehow always tucked in tightly, even when the window had been left open. At first, they thought they were imagining things, or just overtired. But the patterns, the subtle, consistent details made them pause. They started writing notes, comparing days. Then they looked up the date I died. It matched the day the odd little things began. Every clue led back to one quiet winter afternoon, the day they buried me. There were no accusations, no shouting, no exorcisms. Just a peaceful evening by the fireplace, Lori seated with Lily sleeping on her lap and Jack beside her. Lori whispered, "I think if someone really is here with us, they don't mean any harm. In fact, I'm grateful." Jack didn't answer right away. He just nodded, his eyes drifting to the dark hallway, where I was still standing silently. From that moment, everything changed. Not with fanfare, not with any declaration, but in small, sacred gestures that made my very soul ache with meaning. On the anniversary of my death, they lit a single white candle. Lori placed it on the window ledge beside a white chrysanthemum, the flower I had once loved in life. At family dinners, a chair remained empty, placed at the end of the table. No one sat in it, but it always had a plate, a glass, a small portion of food. Lily was told that someone very special was looking after her, keeping her safe from nightmares, watching over her while she slept, and she believed it with all her heart. Though I could never say thank you, never hold them in an embrace, deep down I knew I was no longer the invisible stranger I had once been. I had become someone, not through anything supernatural, but through their belief in me. I didn't need a name. I didn't need a ritual. I just needed to be remembered, and they had done that. I don't know if ghosts truly grow stronger when they are remembered, but ever since they set a place for me at the table, I've felt heavier, not with grief or resentment, but with a kind of warmth, a gravity of belonging, as if slowly I am regaining a body, not to live again, but simply to belong. I once died in silence, but since then, I've come back to life, not with breath, but with unconditional love. I'm no longer a stranger passing through their home. I am part of their family. I used to believe that the world of the living and the world of the dead were forever separate, that no matter how deeply I loved, I could only watch over them silently, like a shadow. But what happened after that made me realize there are moments when that boundary melts away, and when love is strong enough, it compels even a lifeless soul to act. He came back on a damp afternoon, rain falling in soft drizzles, Lily coloring on the floor, and Jack still not home. Lori had just set a pot of soup on the stove when the knock came. Not hurried, not aggressive, but there was something in the rhythm that immediately put me on edge. I drifted toward the front door, feeling a chill rise in the air. He was standing there, the man I had seen in a few old photographs, stuffed deep in Lori's drawer. His face no longer held the softness from those pictures. It was tense, watchful, filled with the simmering rage of someone who'd waited too long. Lori cracked the door open, and the color drained from her face the moment she saw him. "You shouldn't be here," Lori said, her voice struggling to stay calm. "I just want to talk," he replied, but his eyes weren't on Lori. They were darting past her, toward Lily. I immediately stepped between him and the threshold, even though I knew he couldn't see me. Still, he backed away a step, as if something unseen was holding him back. For a moment, he hesitated. Then Lori slammed the door shut and locked it tight. I didn't leave that doorway for the rest of the night. Lily was asleep in her room. Lori couldn't eat a single bite. And when Jack finally got home, they argued, not loudly, but with an exhaustion that seeped into every wall of the house. Unease hung in the air like fog. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen. Windows left open, though no one remembered touching them. Muddy footprints on the wooden steps. A crumpled note shoved under the table with one chilling message. I know what you're hiding. Ita. He didn't just want to rekindle an old relationship. He wanted to reclaim everything he'd lost, Lori, Lily, and the peaceful life they had built. And he was willing to do anything to get it back. I no longer had the patience to simply watch. I had stayed because of love. But now, I would fight for it. They say spirits grow stronger when they are remembered, when they are honored, when their names are spoken with belief. Over the years, I had been given all of that. The candles, the whispered words of gratitude, the warm glances at the dinner table. I had grown powerful. That night, when he tried to pry open the back door, I was ready. The feeling of the kitchen knife in my hand startled me. It was warm. A strange heat pulsed through my frozen skin, as if I had come alive again for one reason only: to protect this family. I knew he couldn't see me, but when the blade sliced through the air, when the wall burst with light from the microwave I'd yanked from the socket, when the window flew open as if struck by a violent gust, he knew. He ran. And me, for the first time in death, I felt my heart beat again. Not from fear, but from love. After that night, there was no more doubt. The police came, noted signs of a break-in, but found no weapon, no clear evidence. They said maybe the intruder got spooked by a neighbor's dog and ran off. But in Jack and Lori's eyes, there was something deeper. A quiet certainty that couldn't be spoken or proven, but felt as real as warmth on a freezing winter night. Lori stood by the window all the next morning, staring at the dried, muddy footprints on the wooden porch. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble like someone who'd just survived a close call. Her gaze was calm, contemplative. When she turned back inside, she placed a warm glass of milk on the small table next to the empty chair. My chair. Thank you, she whispered. Not to anyone in particular, but I knew. It was meant for me. Lily seemed to sense it too. She no longer asked about the strange noises at night. She no longer feared the dark. Instead, she placed her worn stuffed bunny on the empty chair and said, "He can sit here and play with me." I used to think I couldn't cry, but if I could, it would have been that moment. That night, instead of lighting a single small candle like every year, Jack brought out a wooden box I'd never seen before. Inside were a paper from the hospital, a black and white newspaper clipping with my obituary photo, and a handwritten note from Lori, the one who stayed. They placed the box in the center of the dining table, surrounded by candles and white chrysanthemums. No prayers, no grand rituals, just a warm evening with 3 living souls and 1 spirit finally acknowledged. Jack looked straight at the empty chair. "We don't know your name," he said. "We don't know what kind of life you had. But these past years, you've done something no one else has done for this family. You stayed. You didn't leave. You didn't turn away. And yesterday, you saved us." Lori took his hand. "From now on, we won't call you the stranger or the lost one. We'll call you part of this family." Lily clapped her hands, beaming. 4 people in our family. I never needed a shrine or a book written in my honor. I just needed that exact moment, when the eyes that turned toward me weren't filled with fear, but with recognition, love, and acceptance. People often say the dead should rest in peace, but I was never tired. Not when I knew my presence brought something good to the world I once belonged to. And now I am no longer a wandering ghost. I am a guardian, seen, trusted, and loved. Since that night, it wasn't just the candle and the empty chair. They gave me a name, simple but full of meaning: Eli. Not the name of someone who had died, but of someone who is still here, in their home, in their hearts, in Lily's every breath and dream. And I, with all that's left of my soul, for the first time, truly belonged. Ever since I was given a name, I no longer felt like a silent sigh drifting through the hallways. I was Eli, the guardian of this family. No longer just a wandering spirit, I became an irreplaceable part of this home, like a wall that blocks the wind, like a nightlight watching over the ones I love. But peace, as I learned even when I was alive, is always fragile. He came back, not like before, sneaky and hesitant, but bolder, more desperate. He knew this time he wasn't just facing Lori or Jack, but something else, something he couldn't see, but could definitely feel. That night, Lily was fast asleep in her mother's arms, and Jack was reviewing footage from the new security cameras. A subtle movement in the yard made him frown. Then came the sound of the doorbell, not a regular ring, but frantic, violent, like someone trying to break in with their fists. I had been waiting for this moment. I died without even knowing what had hit me, but today I was no longer weak, no longer silent. I had grown stronger, not from rage, but from gratitude, not from hate, but from the unconditional love I'd received over the years. I rushed through the door like a wind tearing through the night. In my hand was the same knife that had once saved Lori, now glowing like it had been forged in the candlelight of countless memorials. When he slammed his shoulder into the door one final time, it burst open, but before he could step in, every light in the house went out. I was there. I didn't need a monstrous form. I didn't need to scream. I just stood there, with the full power of a soul that was no longer alone. He hesitated, eyes scanning the darkness, then hissed like a madman. "What are you? I know you're here." And I answered, not with words, but with a force so strong it sent him flying off the porch. He crashed onto the cold stone tiles, eyes wide, mouth agape, not from pain, but because for the first time in his life, he truly felt fear. He ran, never looking back. Jack turned the lights back on. Lori stepped out of the bedroom with Lily in her arms. The three of them stood in silence. No words were needed. They knew. They were protected. And the one protecting them was still here. The next morning, they placed a new picture in the living room. Not a photo of me because they never had one, but a drawing Lily had made. A family of 4, one of them just a blurred shape surrounded by bright stars. "That's Uncle Eli," she said. "He's my nightlight." I needed nothing more. I had died alone, in the cold and forgotten. But now I existed in every laugh, every warm glance across the dinner table, every candle lit not to drive me away, but to welcome me home. And I will always be here. No one gets to harm them. No one. Because I'm Eli. Not a nameless ghost, but family. If you're hearing these words, maybe you've felt invisible before. Maybe you've walked through someone else's life without anyone truly stopping to see you. Maybe you've thought that if one day you disappeared, the world would stay exactly the same. I used to feel that way too. I died in silence. No one waited for me to come home. No one held on to me. But what I didn't know is that sometimes you don't need blood to have a family. You just need love. Real love, without conditions, without fear, without empty promises. I didn't get to choose how I left, but I did get to choose how I stayed. And so do you. If today you feel like you're living as a shadow, trust me, just one moment of kindness, one person who truly sees you, can become the anchor that keeps you here in the strongest way possible. I don't need to be called a hero. I don't need my name carved in stone. All I need is an empty chair, a small candle, and someone who remembers that I was once here and that I loved with everything I had left after death. Family sometimes isn't what we're born into, it's what we choose to stay for until the very end. This story ends here. If you found it moving, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to support us in making more stories like this. Thank you for listening. Take care and see you in the next one.